Hello everyone, today we are going to learn Chapter 1 Natural Resources and Their Use, Part 1 from your Social Science textbook. In this video, I'll be covering each and every line from the chapter so you don't miss anything important. Make sure to keep your notebook and pen ready and take notes while watching. This will help you remember the concepts better. You can pause or rewind any time to write things down. So, let's begin. Natural resources and their use. Natural resources are things we get from nature that help us live and survive. For example, air we breathe, water we drink, soil where plants grow, sunlight that gives us energy, forests, animals, minerals, and so on. We did not create this. Nature gives them to us for free. Now, just having resources is not enough. How we use these natural resources in our daily life is very important. For example, we use water for drinking, cooking, cleaning. We use sunlight for light and growing plants. And we use trees for wood, paper and oxygen. This chapter is not just about what resources are. It is about how we use them and why we must use them wisely. Concerned social scientists are clear on what we need to do. We must move toward a regenerative economy, an economy that operates in harmony with nature, repurposing used resources, minimizing waste and replenishing depleted resources. We must return to the innate wisdom of nature herself, the ultimate regenerator and recycler of all resources, by Christiana Figueres and Tom Rivett-Carnac in The Future We Choose. So this quote is from the book The Future We Choose, written by Christiana Figueres and Tom Rivett-Carnac. They are experts who work on solving climate change problems and protecting our planet. In this book, they talk about how we can build a better and safer future for Earth. Here, they are saying that we need to change the way we use resources on Earth. So what we need to do? We must move towards a regenerative economy. Regenerative economy means an economy that works with nature and not against it, using natural resources in a way that nature can recover and renew. Repurposing used resources and minimizing waste. This means instead of throwing things away, we should reuse them in new ways. Minimizing waste means reducing how much we throw away. And replenishing depleted resources. Depleted means used up or finished. So this means if we take something from nature, we should always give back. Example, if we cut trees, we should plant new ones. And if we use water, we should conserve and protect sources. Nature is the ultimate recycler. This is a beautiful idea. Nature recycles everything. That is, fallen leaves become soil, dead plants and animals turn into nutrients. Nothing is wasted in nature. So in simple words, use what you need, don't waste and give back to nature. Figure 1.1, Dudhsagar waterfall and the railway bridge, Goa, India. This is the beautiful Dudhsagar waterfall in Goa, along with the railway bridge passing in front of it. The name Dudhsagar means sea of milk because the water looks like white milk flowing down from a great height. This is an example of a natural resource, water. The big questions are, how do we categorize natural resources? What is the connection between the distribution of natural resources and different aspects of life? What are the implications of unsustainable use or overexploitation of natural resources? So we will find answers for these questions in this chapter. When does nature become a resource? One of the meanings of the word nature is the totality of life and non-life forms that are part of our environment but have been created by humans. When humans use these for their sustenance or create new things from them for consumption, these elements of nature become resources. For example, trees are part of the environment. They exist independently of humans. When we cut them and convert their wood into furniture, we see the trees as a resource. First, what is nature? Nature means everything around us that is not made by humans. This includes living things like plants, animals, and non-living things like air, water, and soil. When humans use it for their needs, it becomes a resource. So, what does sustenance and consumption mean? Sustenance means things we need to survive, like food, water, and shelter. Consumption means using things in our daily life. So, trees grow naturally, they are part of nature. When we cut trees and make furniture, paper, houses, they become a resource. So, trees are nature when growing freely and becomes resource when used by humans. So remember, anything in nature becomes a resource when humans use it for their needs. Often these entities are not easily accessible. For example, there may be petroleum in places deep under the ocean that we do not have the technology to access, or the extraction cost may be too high, or it may be culturally unacceptable, like cutting trees in sacred groves. So, for an entity to be called a resource, it should be technologically accessible and its exploitation should be economically feasible and culturally acceptable. Usually, the word exploitation has a negative connotation. In the context we use it here, it means extraction, utilization, and consumption of natural resources. So, not everything in nature can easily become a resource. Sometimes, even if something exists, we cannot use it easily. Because there are three important conditions. First one is technologically accessible. Like we must have the technology like machines and methods to use it. Example, petroleum deep under the ocean. If we don't have the proper tools, we cannot extract it. Second one, economic feasibility. That is, it must be affordable to extract. For example, if extracting a resource from deep underground costs 10,000 but its value is only 1,000, then it is not economically feasible to extract it. Third one is cultural acceptability. That is, it should not go against beliefs or traditions. For example, cutting trees in sacred groves. In some places, people consider forest as holy and do not cut the trees over there. Here, the word exploitation does not mean something bad. It simply means extraction, that is taking from nature, utilization, that is using it, and consumption, that is using it up. So remember, a natural element becomes a resource only when it is accessible, affordable, and culturally acceptable. The earth has treasures, many of which have formed over millions of years and which humans have taken and learned to use. These include the most obvious ones like water, air, and soil, and also the not so obvious ones like coal, petroleum, precious stones, metal ores, timber, etc. So the earth is like a treasure box. It has many valuable things called natural resources. Some of these formed very slowly over millions of years. Resources like coal and petroleum took millions of years to form inside the earth. Humans discovered them and learned how to use them. Here there are two types of resources mentioned. Obvious resources, that is easy to notice, like water, air, and soil. Second one is not so obvious resources, that is hidden or underground, like coal, petroleum, precious stones, metal ores, timber, etc. All these are valuable gifts from earth and many of them are limited because they take a very long time to form. So remember, earth's resources are valuable treasures and many of which take millions of years to form, so we must use them wisely. Figure 1.2, a microhydel plant in Himachal Pradesh, the power of flowing water converted into electricity. Microhydel plant is a small system used to generate electricity using flowing water. Flowing water like river or stream has energy. This moving water turns a turbine, that is a machine. The turbine helps to produce electricity. Figure 1.3, an offshore oil rig extracts petroleum from below the seabed. An offshore oil rig means a large structure built in the sea to extract petroleum, that is oil, from deep under the seabed. Petroleum is found deep below the ocean floor. The oil rig drills into the seabed, then it extracts, that is takes out petroleum from inside the earth. So petroleum is not so obvious resource because it is hidden underground and cannot be seen or used directly. And it is also not easily accessible, and we need advanced technology to extract them. Figure 1.4, gentle plowing causes minimal disturbance to the underground ecosystem and retains soil moisture. Gentle plowing is a farming method where the soil is turned lightly without disturbing it too much. So here farmers are plowing the land carefully. They avoid deep or rough plowing. This helps to protect the land and living organisms inside it. So soil is not just dirt, it has a whole underground ecosystem, that is earthworms, insects and microorganisms. These help in keeping soil fertile and help plants grow better. Gentle plowing helps to retain, that is keep water in the soil and prevent soil from drying out quickly. So this is an example of using natural resources without harming them. Figure 1.5, honey from a beehive. So honey is a natural resource obtained from nature. Don't miss out. In many indigenous traditions of the world, nature is considered sacred. You have read about this. In such traditions, nature is a nurturer and nourisher. So, in many indigenous traditions, that is, old traditional cultures of people around the world, nature is treated as sacred, that is, holy and respected. People believe that nature is not just a resource, it is something to be respected, protected and cared for. Nurture means something that takes care of us. Nourisher means something that provides us with what we need to live. So nature gives us food, gives us water, air and supports all life on earth. So remember, nature is like a mother who supports and protects all living beings. Do you know of practices that reflect this? So can you think of any real life practices where people show respect to nature? Figure 1.6, Tulasi Puja for well-being. This figure shows Tulasi Puja, a traditional practice where people worship the Tulasi, that is holy basil plant. Tulasi is considered a sacred plant in many Indian homes. People offer prayers, water and care to the Tulsi plant. It is usually grown in the courtyard of homes. Families believe it brings health, purity and well-being. So here nature is seen as a nurturer and nourisher. Cultural practices like this help in conserving plants. Think about it. Take a pause. Look at yourself and the things around you. What is the origin of each of them? At some point, they all lead to nature. Even the plastic button on your shirt. So look at the things around you, like your clothes, your bag, your desk, even a small plastic button. From where did all these things come from? Everything around us comes from nature in some way. Even if it looks like man-made, its original source is natural. Cotton shirts come from plants, wooden table comes from trees, metal objects come from minerals in the earth. Plastic button comes from petroleum. So humans do not create things from nothing. We can only change natural materials into useful products. All things around us, even man-made ones, ultimately come from nature. In short, we apply the term natural resources to materials and substances that occur in nature and are valuable to humans. So, natural resources are materials and substances that occur in nature and are useful or valuable to humans. If something is found in nature and helps us in any way, we call it a natural resource. Next is categories of natural resources. In science, we learn the usefulness of categorization and naming. We use some shared characteristics or criteria when we categorize ideas or things. We name the categories so that we can refer to them with just one word or a short phrase. When these names and meanings are shared across groups of people, it helps us discuss a set of ideas or things without needing to describe them every time. We can communicate more effectively too. In earlier classes, you learnt about living and non-living things. As soon as we use these words, you know what they mean. This is a simple example of categories. So, in science, we often group things based on similarities. This is called categorization. We also give names to these groups so that they are easy to remember and use. So why do we categorize? To organize ideas clearly, to avoid long explanations every time, to make communication faster and easier. We use common characteristics, that is features, to group things. Then we give the group a name and everyone understands that name. For example, we already know living things. Living things means plants, animals, etc. Non-living things means rocks, water, etc. When we say living things, you immediately understand what it means without explanation. So categorization helps us group and name things so we can understand and communicate easily. We do the same with natural resources. So natural resources are also grouped into categories to make them easier to understand and use. Think about it. What might be the different criteria we can use to categorize natural resources? Criteria means the basis or rule we use to group things. So think on what basis can we group natural resources. We can classify natural resources in many ways. It can be categorized based on availability, based on origin, based on level of development or use, and based on distribution also. One of the ways they could categorize natural resources is based on the uses we put them to, essential for our life, source for materials, and sources for energy. So, one way to group natural resources is by how we use them. First one is essential for life. These are resources we cannot live without. Examples: air, water, food, etc. Second is source for materials. These are used to make things we use daily. Examples: wood to furniture, cotton to clothes, metals to tools and machines. Next is sources for energy. These give us power and energy to do work. Examples: coal, petroleum, sunlight, wind, etc. Resources essential for life. Life could not exist on earth without the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. We take this from the atmosphere, the rivers and ponds, and through the cultivation of soil or other living things. We cannot make the air we breathe, the water we drink, or the soil which gives us food. So, life on earth is not possible without three basic things: air, water, and food. We get air from the atmosphere, water from rivers, ponds, lakes, etc. Food from soil and other living things, that is plants and animals. These are all natural resources given by nature. Humans cannot create them. We cannot make fresh air. We cannot create natural water resources. We cannot create soil. So, we are completely dependent on nature for survival. So, we must protect and use these resources carefully. Resources for materials. Human beings create physical objects out of nature's gifts. We make them for our utility or to create things of beauty that enrich our lives and those of others. A piece of wood can be transformed into a chair and also carved into a statuette. India's geographical diversity provides us with a wide variety of natural resources, from wood to marble and coal to gold. So, humans use nature's gifts, that is natural resources, to create many useful and beautiful things. We take materials from nature and change them into useful objects. A piece of wood can be used in different ways, made into a chair for use and carved into statuette, that is for beauty or decoration. India has great geographical diversity. This means different types of land and climate. Because of this, India has many natural resources like wood, marble, coal and gold. Resources for energy. Energy is a cornerstone of modern living. Electricity for our buildings, transportation and all types of production processes. This energy can come from diverse natural sources: coal, water, petroleum, natural gas, sunlight, wind, etc. So, energy is very important in our daily life. It is called a cornerstone of modern living, which means we cannot live comfortably today without energy. Imagine your day without energy. That is, no lights, no fan or AC, no phone charging, no buses, no factories. Energy is the backbone of modern life. It helps everything around us work and function. Nature gives us energy from different sources. Coal, which is used in power plants to produce electricity, water used in dams to generate hydroelectric power, petroleum used as fuel in cars, buses and bikes, natural gas used for cooking and electricity, sunlight used in solar panels to produce electricity, wind used in windmills to generate power. All these sources come from nature and help run our daily life. Renewable and non-renewable resources. A second way of categorizing natural resources could be based on whether they are renewable or not. So another way to classify natural resources is based on whether they can be renewed or not. Renewable resources or resources that can be replaced naturally over time. Example, sunlight, wind, water, etc. Non-renewable resources are resources that are limited and take millions of years to form. Examples, coal, petroleum, natural gas. So, renewable resources can be used again and again, but non-renewable resources can get exhausted. A general principle of nature is that it functions in a restorative or regenerative way. Restoration is the process of returning something to its original healthy state if it has been degraded or damaged. Nature heals, renews and maintains herself over time. A cut on your skin will normally heal. A forest recovers after a wildfire. Regeneration goes beyond restoration. It is about nature's ability to create new life and the conditions for thriving. So, nature has a special quality. It can heal and renew itself. This happens in two ways, restoration and regeneration. Restoration means bringing something back to its original healthy state after damage. Example, a cut on your skin heals. A forest grows back after a wildfire. Nature repairs itself over time. What is regeneration? Regeneration is even more powerful. It means nature not only heals but also creates new life and supports growth. Example, new plants growing, new trees forming in a forest. So nature can heal itself and also create new life, making it powerful and self-sustaining. We plant trees in areas that may have lost them on account of human interventions like clearing forest for housing. Planting the types of trees that were originally growing there restores the ecosystem. The trees provide food and shelter for birds, squirrels and other creatures, enabling life to return. So sometimes humans cut down forests for building houses or other uses. This damages the ecosystem, and that is plants, animals and their environment. We need to fix this thing. We need to plant trees again in those areas. But we must plant the same types of trees that originally grew there. So what happens then? The ecosystem starts to restore itself. Trees give food, trees provide shelter and animals like birds and squirrels return. Slowly, life comes back to that place. Planting native trees help bring back balance in nature. Nature works in cycles where there is no waste. Take a forest. Let's say a tree falls in the forest. It decomposes with the bacteria, fungi and insects feeding on it. The tree becomes part of the soil, enriching it. New trees and plants grow from seeds. Eventually, some will fall and the cycle starts again. These are examples of nature's principle of restoration and regeneration in practice. So, nature works in cycles where nothing is wasted. Everything is reused and recycled naturally. A tree falls in the forest, it starts to decompose and small organisms like bacteria, fungi, insects feed on it. The dead tree turns into nutrients in the soil. New plants and trees grow using this rich soil. Over time, they also fall and the cycle repeats. So, nature has its own recycling system. There is no waste in nature. Everything in nature is connected and reused in a continuous cycle. These examples show how nature works on its own to restore, that is heal and repair damage, and regenerate, that is to create new life. This figure shows river water, which is a renewable natural resource. River water is renewed naturally through rainfall, melting of glaciers, support from forest. River water will remain renewable only if glaciers continue to exist and forests are protected. If forests are cut or glaciers melt too fast, rivers may dry up or reduce. So even renewable resources depend on nature's balance. Figure 1.8, we can take timber from the forest in limited quantities for a long time if we allow it to regenerate. Regenerate means new trees grow to replace the old ones. The forest restores itself over time. If we cut too many trees, forest will disappear. If we cut carefully and allow regrowth, forest will continue. This is called sustainable use of resources. We can use natural resources without destroying them. Forests can provide timber for a long time if we use them carefully and allow them to regrow. Renewable resources. Renewable resources exhibit these characteristics over time. Most of India has abundant sunshine. In the natural course, rivers are fed regularly by rain and melting glaciers. Forests renew themselves, soil replenishes itself through natural processes, and so on. So, renewable resources are those that can renew themselves over time. They follow nature's principles of restoration and regeneration. Think about the sunlight we see every day. In India, we have plenty of it, and it's a resource that is always available. Our rivers are full because they are constantly fed by two things, the rain that falls and the melting ice from the glaciers in the mountains. It is a natural cycle that keeps the water flowing. Nature also knows how to fix itself. For example, forests have the ability to grow back on their own over time. Even the soil uses natural processes to replace the nutrients it loses so it can stay healthy for the next round of crops. So, a renewable resource is something that nature replaces or renews on its own. Solar energy, wind energy, energy from flowing water, timber from forest or renewable resources as long as we are able to manage them in a sustainable manner. So, we just learned how nature refills itself, but there is a small catch. We have to be careful about how we use these gifts. Resources like solar energy, wind power and energy from flowing water are amazing because they are constantly available. Even the timber or wood we get from our forest is a renewable resource. But here is the most important part. These things only stay renewable if we manage them wisely. We call this sustainable management. It simply means using these resources in a way that doesn't run them out or damage nature, so that there is always enough left for the people who will come after us. If we use them too fast or without care, we break that natural balance. However, for them to remain renewable, there is a condition. The natural rhythm of restoration and regeneration must not be disturbed. If we harvest timber faster than the forest can grow trees, we will eventually deplete the forest. Scientists have shown that through irresponsible human actions, many of nature's cycles have been disturbed. So, just because a resource is renewable doesn't mean it's impossible to lose. There is a special condition for this. We must not disturb nature's natural rhythm. Think of nature like a heartbeat or a clock. It has its own speed for restoration, that is fixing itself, and regeneration, that is growing back. For example, if we cut down trees, that is harvest timber, faster than the forest can grow new ones, the forest doesn't have time to catch up. Eventually, that forest will simply disappear. Scientists are warning us that many of these natural cycles have already been disturbed because of irresponsible human actions. So, being renewable only works if we respect nature's timing. A combination of several factors interacting, fossil fuel driven industrialization and the cutting down of forests for agriculture and other purposes, or two of them, has led to rising temperatures that we are experiencing. On account of this, the glaciers in some places in the Himalayas are melting at a rate faster than precipitation can replace them. This has implications on water security for the populations living in the plains dependent on the water tunnel. So now we understand how everything in nature is connected. It's like a giant puzzle where moving one piece affects all the others. And this paragraph tells us that two major human activities are causing rising temperatures, that is global warming. First is fossil fuel driven industrialization. Fossil fuel driven means industries that run using fuels like coal, petroleum, and natural gas. These fuels are burned in factories and machines to produce goods. When they burn, they release harmful gases that trap heat in the atmosphere. Second one is deforestation. Trees are cut down for farming, housing, and other activities. Trees normally absorb harmful gases, so cutting them increases heat in the environment. So what is the result? These actions cause global warming, that is rise in temperature. And in the Himalayas, glaciers are melting faster than snowfall and rain can replace them. Himalayas are called water tower because they store water as ice and they supply water to rivers flowing to the plains. People in the plains depend on this water for drinking, farming, and other daily needs. If glaciers melt too fast, water supply may decrease, water security will be affected. So, human activities are disturbing nature and affecting important resources like water. Figure 1.9 offering Argyam to Surya, the sun god, in gratitude. Argyam offering generally of water as a mark of respect or gratitude. So, Argyam means offering water as a way of saying thank you or I respect you. And people do this to show gratitude to nature and to thank the sun for light and energy and to express respect and devotion. It reminds us that nature gives us everything. We should be thankful and respectful. So, Argyam is the act of offering water to show respect and gratitude, especially to sun god. Don't miss out. Traditionally, communities had a system of regulating or refraining from fishing during the spawning season to enable the maintenance of the fish population. However, the commercialization of fishing resulted in overfishing. In the case of a type of fish called tuna, for example, the rapid and extensive decline in their population led to some agreements on control of fishing. Nevertheless, this important type of fish that keeps the ocean ecosystem in balance by consuming smaller fish, shrimps, etc. is on a decline. So earlier, communities followed traditional rules to protect nature. They avoided fishing during the spawning season. Spawning means time when fish lay eggs. This helped fish to reproduce, fish population to increase. With commercialization of fishing, that is, fishing for business and profit, people started catching too many fish. And this led to overfishing. One such example is tuna. Tuna fish population has reduced rapidly due to overfishing. Because of this, some rules and agreements were made to control fishing. Tuna play an important role in the ocean. They eat smaller fish and shrimps. They help maintain balance in the ecosystem. And if tuna decreases, the entire ocean balance is affected. So, traditional practices protected nature, but overuse for profit is disturbing ecosystems. Do you know of other traditional practices that help the ecosystem to stay in balance? So, before we had big factories, people lived very closely with the nature. They didn't just stay, they made sure to give back. For example, many communities had sacred groves, that is small patches of forest where no one was allowed to cut trees or hunt. This kept the local ecosystem safe. Another great example is rainwater harvesting. Long before modern pipes, people built step wells or ponds to catch every drop of rain. By doing this, they kept the rhythm of the water cycle steady. These aren't just old traditions, they are smart lessons in how to live with nature instead of just using it up. We need industries to produce the goods we consume. The process also creates waste that are frequently discharged into rivers and other water bodies. Often, these wastes cannot decay to become the food of some life form. Instead, it leads to a disturbance of nature's cycle of restoration and regeneration, leading to a situation where the river becomes poisonous and cannot support life. So industries are important because they produce goods we use every day, but the production process also creates waste. And this waste is often released into rivers and water bodies. Many of these waste are non-biodegradable. That is, they do not break down naturally. And this is a huge problem because in nature, waste should decompose and become useful again. But industrial waste does not decay easily and it cannot be used by other living organisms. So, this disturbs nature's restoration, that is healing, and regeneration, that is renewal. So, rivers become polluted and poisonous, unable to support plants and animals. So, remember, human activities can break nature's natural cycles if not managed properly. Let's explore. Identify human actions in your surroundings that result in nature losing her ability to restore and regenerate. What types of interventions can be undertaken to restore nature's cycle? So now you need to identify harmful human actions. That is, you need to observe your surroundings and think what are people doing that harms nature. Examples like cutting trees, pollution, throwing waste in rivers, and then suggest solution. Think of what we can do to help nature recover. What actions can bring back balance, like planting trees, reducing pollution, saving water, etc. So this question is asking you to identify problems caused by humans and suggest ways to fix them. Don't miss out. Ecosystem functions and ecosystem services. Nature has some inherent ways of working. For example, trees naturally produce oxygen. When these natural processes benefit humans, we call them ecosystem services. We can think of it like this. A forest naturally filters water, prevents soil erosion, and provides habitat for animals. These are ecosystem functions. When we benefit from clean water, protected farmland, and pollinated crops because of that forest, we are receiving ecosystem services from nature. So, nature has its own natural processes, that is the way it works. They are ecosystem functions and ecosystem services. Ecosystem functions are the natural activities of nature. For example, trees give oxygen, forests filter water. How does forest filter water? Rain falls on the forest, soil acts like a filter and roots help clean water and water slowly seeps underground. So, forests filter water as soil and roots trap impurities and allow clean water to seep into the ground. And forests also prevent soil erosion by holding soil with roots and reducing the impact of rainwater. And forests give shelter to animals. All this happens naturally without human effort. So, we get clean water, our farms are protected, and crops grow better. That is ecosystem services. So, when we use or benefit from the ecosystem functions, we call them ecosystem services. So, ecosystem functions are nature's work and the ecosystem services are the benefits we receive from it. Ecosystem functions. So, nature is working for us all the time silently. We must protect it because we depend on these services for survival. A mature tree produces about 275 liters of oxygen per day. This varies a little depending on the type of tree. A human being needs about 350 liters of oxygen every day. This can change based on the type of activity that an individual engages in, their height and weight, and so on. So, every single day, a fully grown mature tree produces about 275 liters of oxygen. On average, a human being needs about 350 liters of oxygen every day to breathe and stay healthy. So, one tree doesn't even produce enough oxygen for one person. And remember, those numbers can change. If you are running around playing sports or if you're taller, you might need even more than 350 liters. This shows us that we don't just need some trees, we need a lot of them just to keep us breathing. Let's explain. Take up a small research study To assess the types of renewable resources in your region, you may discuss with your teacher the geographical area of your study and sources to access information that you may need. What has been the change in their status over time? Make a small report that identifies the reasons for the change and what may be done. So now you need to look at your area and identify renewable resources there. Study how they have changed over time. Find resources in your area that can be renewed like sunlight, water, trees, etc. and study their condition over time. Like were they more in the past or are they reducing or changing now? Find reasons for that change. Think about pollution, cutting trees, overuse of resources. And you also need to suggest solution. That is, what can we do to improve the situation? Like planting trees, saving water, reducing pollution. By doing this, you are learning to observe nature around you and understand the human impact. Non-renewable resources. Non-renewable resources are created over long periods. They cannot be replenished at the rate we use them. For example, fossil fuels, that is coal and petroleum, and minerals and metals like iron, copper and gold are non-renewable resources. India has significant quantities of coal reserves. We mine coal to meet our growing need for energy, but it has been estimated that the coal reserves in India may last another 50 years. The demand for electricity has been increasing as the population expands and development work accelerates. Till more sustainable options become available widely, we need to use the coal we have judiciously. So, non-renewable resources are those that take millions of years to form. They cannot be replaced quickly once used. Examples: fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, and minerals and metals like iron, copper, gold, etc. India has good reserves of coal, but we are using coal for electricity and industries, and the demand is increasing due to growing population and more development. Scientists estimate that coal in India may last only 50 years. This means it is limited and it can get exhausted. So, until better options like renewable energy are widely used, we must use coal carefully, that is judiciously, and avoid wastage. So, non-renewable resources are limited and they must be used wisely. Let's explore what are the non-renewable resources that you use daily, directly or indirectly. What are the possible renewable substitutes? What are some of the steps we can take to transition to renewables? So, now you need to identify non-renewable resources you use. You need to think, what things do I use that come from limited resources? It can be direct use like petrol, gas, and indirect use like electricity from coal, plastic items. And then you need to find renewable substitutes. For each non-renewable resource, think what is natural renewable alternative. For example, petroleum can be replaced by electric vehicle or solar energy. Then finally, you need to suggest steps to transition. That is, think what actions can we take to shift from non-renewable to renewable resources, like saving energy, using solar power, reducing fuel use. So, you need to observe your usage, find better alternatives, and suggest solutions for the future. So, with this, we have completed the part 1 of the chapter Natural Resources and Their Use. I hope you found it easy to understand. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. We will see you again in our next video. Bye bye.